It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the two films of Memorial Day weekend 2007, May 25th to be exact. And we wrap up this first big month of the summer movie season with the third of the final big threequels that came out to start the year off. The summer movie season off, I should say, not the year. But we also have a new film from the director of The Exorcist, William Friedkin. But before we get to that, let's go into that film that I was talking about before, the biggest new release of the weekend, which was, of course, Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End.
What would you do? What would any of you be willing to do? Would you brave the weird and haunted shores at World's End to fetch back Witty Jack?
Did no one come to save me just because they missed me?
There was a time when a pirate was free to make his own way in the world. But our time is coming to an end.
Why should I sail with any of you? 4 of you have tried to kill me in the past. One of you succeeded.
Our enemies have united and vowed to destroy us.
You will fight, and all of you will die.
The pirate lords from the 4 corners of the earth,
Welcome to Singapore.
must stand together. There's not been a gathering like this in our lifetime.
And I owe them all money.
It would never have worked out between us.
Keep telling yourself that, darling. They know they face extinction. All that remains is where they make their final stand.
Will you marry me?
I don't think now's the best time!
You're mad.
If I wasn't, this would probably never work.
So in this third installment of the Pirates of the Caribbean series, you have Will Turner, Elizabeth Swann, Hector Barbosa, and the crew of the Black Pearl rescuing Captain Jack Sparrow from Davy Jones's locker, and then preparing to fight the East India Trading Company led by Cutler Beckett, who controls Davy Jones and plans to extinguish piracy forever. And much like Dead Man's Chest, a lot of the problems with the movie is that it's all over the place. For one thing, right from the get-go, it starts with one of the most downer things ever. You've got the Walt Disney Pictures logo, one of the happiest things you could see in a movie. And then guess what follows after that? A hanging. No, not just one hanging. No. No, we gotta prove that we're going extremely dark here at Disney, for Disney. 7 people being hanged to death. All just after we had the opening logo. And it's all downhill from there. I mean, yeah, the action sequences can still look pretty impressive, and the cinematography still is really spectacular. I love that shot of Jack and Davy Jones just duking it out above the ship while the camera circles around them. That's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. The biggest problem playing at World's End is kind of like with Spider-Man 3 Trek the Third. Too much stuff is going on, and it's mostly because of a clunky script. And once again, the runtime here is really a problem. This is a movie that's over 2.5 hours long, and it doesn't add anything new or has anything exciting that makes us convinced that this should have been a trilogy all along. Clearly this was meant to do the same thing that Back to the Future did back in the 90s, and The Matrix did just a few years before this. But here's the thing. Back to the Future was always meant to be a one-film storyline, but when that film became the big success that it was, and when they made the back-to-back sequels, they at least found new and creative ways to come up with a satisfying story, and span it out over 3 films, doing different genres. Like, the second movie was obviously more focused on the future, the third film basically is a western, but here, it's like they don't know where they want to take the franchise at all. I mean, the first movie was such a surprise hit that nobody really saw coming, and I guess they thought there was just going to be one movie in general, but when it went on to become the massive hit that it was, nobody really knew where to I don't think anybody really knew where to take this franchise going forward, and it's a film that's supposed to be setting itself up as the end of the storyline, but doesn't set up the end of the franchise itself. It really doesn't have an indication of which direction it really wants to go into. Again, the action can still look very impressive at times, but unlike Dead Man's Chest, where there's at least an effort to keep some of the charm and wit from the first film, there's barely none of that. They go dark in this way too much, and you can be dark if you want to, but you gotta have some blending in like you did in the first movie, and not just be bleak and dark about it like this film is. Like, it's a really, really lackluster film, and it just ends the series. It was supposedly the end of the series it ends it on a sour note, and you gotta think that if you're gonna continue the story, you gotta take it to another direction, and the next film, they take out the love interests in the movie and just make it all about the man we always associate with this, Captain Jack Sparrow. Does it work out in the film's favor? Well, so. We'll delve into that once we get to On Stranger Tides in a couple of years' time. But for now, though, at World's End, some brief flashes here and there, but it's just another one of these movies that we come to expect from this point in the summertime, from this particular summer. Just too much is going on here, and it ruins the movie completely because way too much is going on, and what's there is just way too bleak and too bland to really count as anything entertaining. At least in my opinion, it didn't. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the last one we have here, William Friedkin's Bug, starring Ashley Judd.
Somebody.
First, they send their drone.
Very beautiful.
Then, they find their queen.
You can stay here tonight.
You hear that?
What happens next
Oh my God.
is a living nightmare. On May 25th, evil
We
lives
have to kill him.
inside us all.
I know who I am!
From the Academy Award-winning director of The Exorcist, Bug, rated R, in theaters May 25th.
Yeah, so something I didn't know about this until I did the research for this. This is actually based off of a play from a character actor, Tracy Letts, who I've seen in a ton of stuff before. He was most recently in Saturday Night Live, in the Saturday Night movie, about Saturday Night Live, but turns out this was based off of a play that he wrote back in 1996 that I had no idea that it was even that part about it, but yeah, you learn something new when you do your research here. But in this film, you have Ashley Judd as a woman who's escaping her abusive ex-husband who was recently released from state prison, and she's a lonely waitress with a tragic past, so she moves into a sleazy, rundown motel, and she has a lesbian co-worker introduce her to this guy named Peter, a peculiar, paranoid drifter played by Harry Connick Jr., and they begin a tentative romance. However, things aren't always as they appear, as Agnes is about to experience a claustrophobic nightmare reality as the bugs begin to arrive. And for William Friedkin, this was kind of at the later half of his, this is the latter of his career, this is the twilight of his career, and kind of the last couple movies he would make, and he'd not been making the best movies for a long time, honestly. I can't remember, what was the last good William Friedkin movie I saw that he directed? Probably Blue Chips in '94, which was the one with Nick Nolte and Shaquille O'Neal. But yeah, he hadn't made a whole lot of good movies since then. But this is probably one of his better films that he's made. A film that works mostly because of the way it uses the take on paranoia. Like, it really is a film that, they created a lot of good tension. They've got a lot of really solid actors in here to make this work. You've got Lynn Collins also in here, as well as Michael Shannon, who, you've got a really solid cast in here overall, and the film really does keeps you on the edge of your seat. It wasn't really afraid to, build up this tension overall, and I think the ending is going to be very polarizing to a lot of people. I thought it worked for what they were trying to accomplish here, and it just works overall. I think it's a very entertaining film. I think it's a film that really does keep you invested throughout the course of the film. The actors are very good. The story is very interesting. It's a very good tension-filled movie, because this woman's got a lot of problems that she's got to deal with. She's got this guy that she just met that could be nuts. Her husband's out of prison. And yeah, it's just so many different things going on here, and they just all work to the film's advantage in the end. I really like it a lot. I think it's a very underrated little film. Definitely check it out. If you want to see one of William Friedkin's best films that he did later in his career, Bug is probably the best one he's done, honestly. So yeah, I highly recommend Bug. And so with all of that said, we will wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, as we'll jump into June on the next episode with 2 notable movies. I know there's 3 here, but I've never seen Gracie, so I'm not even going to bother with that one. But we have Judd Apatow's follow-up to The 40-Year-Old Virgin as a director, Seth Rogen and Katherine Heigl, Knocked Up. Kevin Costner stars as a serial killer who's, he's got William Hurt as his guardian angel / demon, if you will, and Mr. Brooks, along with Demi Moore, Dane Cook among the cast in here too. Certainly is a very odd movie, because I remember seeing it in theaters back then. I had no idea what the hell it was about, what the hell it ended up being at the end of it, but I'll delve more into that on tomorrow's show. We'll take a look at those 2 movies, because they're definitely very interesting films to talk about on both levels. So, with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the place on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification button, as well as that bell, because you get updates on when new videos come out, and we do post new videos here every day. And also, don't forget to stick around, because on Time About the Movies Flashback, we're flashing back to the last weekend of August 1987 with The Fourth Protocol, Hamburger Hill, House 2, The Second Story, End of the Line, Matwain, and Apocalypse Now. So we'll take a look at those movies. That'll be coming up on Time About the Movies Flashback, which we'll get to right after this, so stick around.